Lucy. Come here. Come here. Oh, she's so excited. So excited. It's a nice day out here. This is actually an umbrella stand for outdoor furniture, turned upside down and put into a hole, and she's tied up underneath that. You want to talk about genius. So normally we're letting Lucy kind of run around and do her own thing, but she has gotten into a kick recently of running into the road in front of cars and barking at them and stopping them. So she doesn't get to just run around anymore until we can get that worked out of her. Right? Sit. Good girl. Good dog. That's easier to do with two hands for sure. So we get this feed from a local place. It kind of crushes up their own stuff. It's good layer feed. What are you doing up there? They see food. Oh shoot. How'd you get stuck? Never seen that before. We'll just leave this sloppy around here. You guys do seem hungry this morning. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. So I looked over and they were eating out of this bucket here. This is kind of crazy. So I had the bucket up like this. What had happened is a chicken's head got in over here, and then this came down and another chicken was standing on top of it, and it locked the chicken's head into the bucket. Good thing I caught that. Jeez. Yeah, they always act like they're starving. They're not, for sure. We have another project. We have a new idea for expanding our garden as if it needs to be expanded. But there's a good reason for this. It's not just expansion for the sake of expansion. Just as a review, we have four 42 by 50 foot plots here that we grow stuff on, and it's plenty for us and with a lot of excess. So why would we expand? Well, there's purposes. So this is all in ground. It's all, tarped up, or mostly tarped up. And it's great for in-ground stuff that we grow. We've got arches and lots of trellising for things that need to be trellised. But we don't have anything in here for our long-term perennial plants. And we really don't want to plant any perennial plants in here because it gets so messy sometimes at the end of the year. So what we want to try to do is actually do some raised beds in this area here. So our design basically is like a little triangle here because our woods kind of go in a triangular fashion here along this edge. So we're going to try to, kind of make it, leave ourselves a little roadway, which we've kind of already determined is our path, and make it go from about there to here all the way around as just raised beds. The very first pile we ever put on this hill was right here, which of course didn't go with plans because we didn't have any plans. Dug this little trench here so that I could put my electric fence, which of course lined up in the middle of this pile. But so this is actually where we had some hay bales there, we had some chicken litter there, we had some sawdust there, and we still have some cow manure here in a pile. So all of this needs to be picked up and moved. All of it, though, will also be really good to help fill these beds that we're about to make, because again, we're going to make raised beds here. And I've got a lot of the materials already. So next weekend, hopefully I'll have a little bit better weather and be able to actually work on this. But we've got the wood and everything now. All right, welcome to a freezing cold day on Homestead. It got down to 13 last night, which is really cold for us. Today, I'm still gonna get out here and try to put these beds together. So these have been laid out. Here's how it works. We have 8-foot long boards there and 2-foot long boards that are gonna go underneath the edge here, over there, to make just a simple square. So the dirt will go on this side. So we're attaching the metal sheets to that side. So this is going to flip up like this and be the front of this bed. On the side, we're going to build the exact same thing. It's just going to be, a flat face that's going to connect to the sides, the edges here. Pretty simple. I'm not trying to make this complicated. Instead of just drilling straight in, I'm going to pocket hole these guys because I like pocket holes, and I got a Kreg jig, and you spend a bunch of money on a Kreg jig, you need to use it. These are 8-foot sheets of metal roofing, so I'm going to have to cut the 2 sides, which are going to be 4 foot wide, just one of these in half. The reason why this works out is because these aren't 2 feet wide. They're actually 2.16 feet wide. So there's a little bit of an overlap. So you can cut this at 2 feet and it'll actually create a lip that you can actually screw these into the boards. And that should hopefully hold it in. Also, because I've done this so many times before, it is smart to lay out your stuff and mark where you're actually going to put your pocket hole jigs relatively. And this doesn't have to be perfect. It just kind of lets you know what side you're on. So I'm going to do 2 over here. And then I'm going to do 2 on this end. And then I'm going to do 3 across this side. Essentially, eyeballing here. 3 pocket holes there that are actually going to go into this other piece of wood, and that should hold it together. The 4 screws on either side of this board, and then this into that one will pull the other one in, and it will also just kind of pull itself next to this. You'll notice that it says not intended for ground contact. That's important. But while this will be sitting on the ground, it is more prone to rot because it is not necessarily intended for ground contact. This treatment is more just water and rot resistance, but it will help. And so this probably will not rot out, or will take a long time to rot out. In the end, you know, something like cedar or maybe even like an oak or another hardwood is less likely to rot. Cedar's really the best. It's just expensive. So it's up to you. Cedar will last a really long time. It really takes a long time to rot. Stop talking and actually start working on this thing. I drilled that one in just to show you how far out that screw actually goes. And then, let me see if I can drop this down some, so you can really see how close to being out of the end of the other grain it would be. And actually that might be a little too long. So it's a good test for me. So if I were to do a board, if I were to be doing a board like this, that would be fine, as you can see. If I do a board like this, it might poke out of the end because this is actually poking out just a tad. So I want to use, for these, I want to use the 2.5-inch screws, which will leave me about that much in, which is totally fine. Check it out. So this is our design for our raised bed garden that we're building over here. It's probably a few weeks later, actually. We've been working on this for a while. Look at all this, look at this gold, liquid gold right here, lumber. Let's talk about what we've got so far. So I showed you this one, which is essentially a frame that has been built, and but it's not perfect, it's not done yet. but I wanted to talk about it and what we did. So we used pocket hole joinery on the inside here. So essentially these are 2 foot boards, 2 foot boards, 2 feet, 2 foot, 2 foot boards, 2 feet long boards, all in through here. And then we have 2x4s across the top. For people who are concerned about treated wood, I'm not, you can be totally fine. But this actually isn't really even touching the wood at all. So, or touching the dirt at all. So I'm not too concerned about it leaching anything. And I'm not really concerned about it because arsenic is what they used to use. And yes, arsenic is bad, but today it's copper. And so if you don't like chemicals, don't use this. Use cedar or something. It's going to cost you more, but or just don't use treated wood at all. I mean, this will probably last several years without using it, but you will have to replace it eventually. It will rot a lot faster. Basically, we built 4 frames. So we built this outside frame, which is just a 2 4-foot boards and then 2 2-foot boards. And then we built the 2 side frames, which is 2 8-foot boards with 3 2-foot boards attached to it, all with pocket hole screws. All right. Now, if you don't use pocket hole screws, then basically you have to come through the top here, which is a long screw. So we chose pocket hole screws, just makes it a little bit easier. Now you could also just attach that to the outside if you wanted it to be shorter. The thing I did add was at the end here, I added 2 screws into this board to kind of help hold that together. And I did that on all of the sides. This is what it's going to kind of look like. Bam, look at that. So we take these metal panels and we painted them white. And so our kind of theme up here, our color scheme is black and white. It just is what it is. So we're going to try to stick to it. Our side by side is black and white too, if you didn't notice that. So, but yeah, this is what it's going to be. It's basically 2 8-foot sheets here, and then I cut 1 sheet to length. This is actually about 43.5 inches or so. It's not exactly 4 feet across, about 43.5 inches to get that sheet to fit in there, and then screw it onto the side. So you cut another sheet. So it takes 3 sheets of metal. It's like 8.5 boards, I think. Say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So 8.5 boards, but essentially this is what it kind of looks like as it's done, relatively done. I got to come back through here and do some touch up, but I think they look great. What do you guys think? How in the world are you going to fill that massive thing up? Because that is tall, and it is tall. I think it's 29 inches, I think, in height. So it is a really tall raised bed, which is great. I love tall raised beds. Well, we're going to fill it up with junk. We got junk over here. So that hugelkultur method we talked about a little bit last year, and for those who don't know, it's basically you kind of layer an area with sticks. Now technically hugelkultur isn't really in this. It's literally just creating a pile of sticks and putting some organic material, stacking some dirt on top of it, and planting into it. But this is just a few minutes of me going up at the top of the hill and just gathering random sticks and stuff. We've got some larger logs actually up here by the road. So this is where, dual purpose and everything, we're going to clean up our property and fill up our raised beds. In this one, I do want to show you the kind of solution to the bottom sagging out is that we put this metal band here. Now, I've seen some people do this before too, and they say you have to have really, really strong metal bands. I don't really believe that. This is just my opinion. I think a metal band like this to be stretched would take a ton of force, and I don't think you're going to get that. And as long as you secure it in pretty good, you know, with a couple screws. And so we rounded ours around the corner here to help a little bit as well. That's not going to go anywhere. So I just use this cheap stuff. So how did we screw them in? These are actually metal screws for gutters that I put in there. They don't eat too much into the meat of the wood, which I don't like. So what I did is I just went ahead and bought some longer kind of screws. They've got larger heads on them too. we're gonna fill them up. We're gonna fill them up as much as we can, and again on the bottom with logs and stuff, just to kind of fill space. Because your plants are gonna grow in the first top 12 inches anyway, so anything below 12 inches is wasted compost. And then we're gonna take all this extra brush and stuff that we got from the garden, and we're gonna stack it on top of that and crush it down. Now, you may be worried about seeds, weeds, and stuff like that. Well, the top layer is gonna be probably 12 inches of compost, so none of those seeds are gonna see the light of day anyway. It's windy, but up here, check out this pile underneath this big tree that we see on all our shots of the field. So up here we have tons from where they cleared the lumber, and it looks like they tore a bunch of limbs off and piled them up right here underneath this tree. So that pile is already basically a hugelkultur pile, just needs to be covered up. But I'm going to take all these sticks, and that's what we're going to use to fill our garden beds. And there are places like this all over the property where limbs and stuff like that, rotten limbs, have just been piled up, and they've been sitting out here rotting away for years. So they're perfect material just to fill up garden beds. And this is one of many. Welcome to the future. And we now have 2 completed beds, and we put down weed fabric. So we're going to put weed fabric between all of these, and then we're going to cover it in wood chips. It's kind of the plan. We didn't get to this end, don't worry about that little guy. But look at this sunset shot on these raised beds. But check this out. I'm super proud of what we were able to accomplish. We just on a whim went looking around the property, and bam, look at all this stuff. Look at all this wood we put in here. This is our hugelkultur method. This is all woods, just stuff we found rotting in the woods. It's really good stuff, actually. Super soft. This is like a sponge. Look at that. Look at this. Break it apart with my hand. That's awesome. So the purpose basically is that this stuff will rot down eventually, but it's really meant to just take up space, which is what it's going to do. And the second layer is just weeds, and grass, and stuff that we pulled from the garden, everything. All our leftovers matted in a layer. And then on top of this is going to go compost.
Just gotta put that in there. We mixed in a little peat moss in there too to kind of mix up some of this compost here, which is pretty good stuff. This is mushroom compost we get from a local place. It's got the fungus built into it. Yeah. So yeah, that's good stuff. It's gonna be good to plant into. A lot of nutrients already built in there, and we still have. We did 2 scoops in the back of the truck, and so we still got probably a scoop and a half left. maybe only a scoop, a little over a scoop. So it looks like we might be able to do 1 cubic yard per. Although this is definitely going to settle some. It's kind of funny watching it. You couldn't really see it, but it bounces because of all the stuff we've got underneath it. It's like a spring. All the limbs and stuff and grass and organic matter we put in there, but they're buried pretty deep. We'll probably do a little bit more too, but for today,
Yeah, we'll let it settle a
Or
little
for
bit.
right
We're not
now.
planning in this right now. It'll be a couple weeks before we plant in it. And we've got more beds to work on, so as we get more compost, if we see we need more, we'll top it off some.
and we just have to do a bunch more of them that same way, that same amount of work, which is crazy. But this is our next one here. We've already started to put some stuff down in there. Stuff we found in the woods. Trees that were knocked over, limbs on our driveway. But yeah, it looks good so far.
It wasn't half as hard as I thought it would be.
All right, we'll sign off.
Bye. See you later.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe down below. All that fun stuff. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.